right, guys, bear with me. I'm going to do my best MKBHD impression today as we do a tech review. Oh my God, what are we doing here? A special thank you to FIFINE. They sent out a couple of products to me to review today, talk to you guys candidly about, and I'm really excited to see what we can discuss here. If you guys have been watching me on my main channel, XDefiant Guides, you would have seen that I've been using a new microphone recently. I've been testing it out on my videos and on the live streams, and a lot of you have actually been asking about it, both about the quality, saying that it sounds really good and that it looks really cool, asking me what it is. I've tried to discuss it, but today we're going to go into detail about these particular products. We're going to review them and give my candid thoughts. So with that being said, FIFINE ended up sending me their AM8 microphone that you can see right here in all of its beautiful glory. And they also sent over their SC3 mixer that you see right here. So huge thank you to FIFINE. They ended up reaching out to me, asking me if I'd like to do a review. They sent me the products. I'm not required to state anything specific about them. I just need to tell you guys what they are and then provide my thoughts about the use case and really just review these products and answer the question, should you purchase them? Now, with that being said, both of these items are available on Amazon for around the $50 range. Depending on the time frame, they might be plus or minus a few dollars depending on a sale, but both of these are around $50 on Amazon. So if you purchase them both together, you're looking at around $100 for the set. Now, with that said, these devices are sort of intended to be used together. One's the mixer, one's the microphone. That's kind of how they're designed to work together. But the question I have is, should you purchase these together and use them in tandem? Maybe you would be better off using these devices independently of each other, because while they are sort of designed to be used together, they can be used outside of each other, and that might be your better call. But we're going to start with the SC3. We're going to talk about that audio mixer first. We're going to give my thoughts and the use cases about that first. Then we're going to jump over to the AM8, discuss that, and then we're going to tie it back up together, talking about both of them. And should you get both of them together or should you not? Now, starting with the SC3, this is intended to be an audio interface where you have your microphone plugged into the interface, and then you also have it plugged into your computer. So this way you can control both your microphone audio and your computer audio, ideally your game that you're playing, and you have it all in one system. You have other products like the Rodecaster Duo or the Rodecaster Pro 2. You've got the Elgato Stream Deck Plus, or you've also got systems like the Beacon Mix Create. And of course, the big daddy of them all, the Go XLR. These are all audio interfaces that are supposed to combine audio sources into one system to make it user-friendly and simplified for the creator, the gamer, whoever is utilizing this system. And that is what the SC3 is supposed to be. You have 4 independent faders on the system. One of them is for your microphone, another is for your computer audio, and then you've also got 2 additional sources that you may be using for like a line in and a line out. Now, for my use case, and what I would assume a lot of people's use cases would be, I'm really only going to be using the microphone and the computer audio. Now, immediately, one thing that you cannot do on this system is you cannot change what those faders are dedicated for. They are set out of the box in the hardware only to be used for those specific functions. Whereas something like the Rodecaster Duo, you can change what each independent fader are actually controlling. On this, you cannot do that. Now, you do have mic monitoring on this system, which is really nice to have. If you plug in your XLR microphone, and in this case, the FIFINE AM8 through XLR into this interface, you can have immediate mic monitoring, which is very nice to have. And you can adjust what that volume sounds like utilizing one of the faders. Now, the downside to doing this is that if you are monitoring your microphone volume and you want to change what that volume is, not only are you adjusting your monitoring audio, you're also adjusting the computer audio because they are tied to the same fader. I couldn't tell you why, but in order to adjust your mic monitoring, you're also going to adjust your computer sound. Now, you do not have to do the mic monitoring. There's a button on the system where you simply press the button, you start listening to your microphone in real time via that button, but you don't have to use that. So if you're not somebody who likes to monitor your audio, then this may not be a problem for you. So let me also back up here and tell you what functions you have with this interface. Basically, for your microphone, you have 2 different options. You can plug in through an XLR microphone, like once again, the AM8, or you can also use a headset microphone, like something on a headset that you would buy from Razer or SteelSeries or Logitech or something like that. But again, I think in this particular use case, we're just going to be discussing the XLR format. Now, stepping back ahead here, in terms of other functions on this SC3, you actually have a lot of really interesting things. You have a voice changer as well as auto-tune built directly into this system, and this is something that I believe is actually used on the Go XLR. It was kind of a pioneer in that essence, the Go XLR was. So to have it on this SC3 at the price point is actually kind of cool. You also have 4 custom buttons, and what these essentially are custom sound pads. So you can actually record a custom soundbite utilizing these 4 buttons, and then you can play it back and it will play through your microphone input on whatever you're using, whether it's a game or recording software or whatever the case may be. Now, the downside to doing this is that the audio quality for that recording is noticeably poor. You will not be getting the same audio quality that you will be outputting just via your microphone as you will be in those custom sound buttons. But even with that said, it's still nice to have. You also have phantom power available on here as well. So if you are using a condenser microphone that needs that extra power, you can activate that phantom power and get your condenser microphone up and running. But the FIFINE AM8 is a dynamic microphone. So for our purposes here, we don't need to use that. And then finally here, you have a RGB button. Now I will say that the RGB on this SC3 is beautiful, and how they utilize the RGB color within these buttons actually makes this system look really, really beautiful. It is very photogenic, I must say. Now, with all that being said, in terms of the actual functions of the system, how does it work in real time if you want to use this? And unfortunately, I think this is where it starts to fall apart a little bit. All right, now real quickly, I just want to show you guys what it sounds like when the FIFINE AM8 is plugged directly into the FIFINE SC3. You guys can hear in the top end of my audio here, there's a lot of clipping and peaking that is occurring. And as soon as I get a little closer to the microphone, you guys can see that it overmodulates incredibly. Now, I have my input gain set to 60% like I was suggested, but let's say maybe we need to bring it down a little bit more. Maybe let's bring it down. Maybe that's the problem. The second I get close to the microphone, yeah, the volume isn't loud, but it still overmodulates and clips incredibly. What that tells me is that the internals on this SC3 are of low quality and they're not able to maintain a clean signal with a high gain coming into it. There is no like clip guard or anything like that. Now, like I mentioned, there are these fun buttons that you can run through and
do some fun little effects with your voice.
And it's kind of nice if you wanted to play something like maybe
a search and destroy from Call of Duty and you want to have some fun.
and utilizing your voice. That's kind of fun.
And then maybe you want to do like some auto-tune here with your voice when you're playing Call of Duty. It's kind of fun, I suppose. And you also have these custom buttons, custom A, B, and C. Here is where you can record a soundbite and have it go back through the system. So let's do that real fast here. But real quick, you have to do this. If you do not have the mic monitor button activated right here, this will not work. You must have mic monitoring activated in order for the SC3 to record your microphone into these custom sound buttons. Now we have a solid light here, so we are recording. Thank you so much for subscribing to X-Defiant Guides. We release, and now it has been recorded. So let's press the button and see what it sounds like. Now we have a solid light here, so we are recording. Thank you so much for subscribing to X-Defiant Guides. We release. Do you guys see what it sounds like right there? The poor recording quality. So that's why I say this isn't really for a professional creator, more so somebody who wants to have some fun online in the game and with their friends perhaps. Now quickly, just to confirm that it is in fact the SC3 that is giving this audio problem with the overmodulation, I've now plugged in my Shure MV7 instead of the FIFINE AM8 to see if maybe it is just the AM8 that's having a problem. But the answer is no. You get clipping and overmodulation no matter what XLR microphone you plug into this SC3. I reached out to FIFINE to ask them a question regarding what the input gain can allow on this SC3, because depending on the microphone that you're using, you may need more input gain than others. The SM7B, for example, is a microphone that needs more input gain than some others in order to properly power it. And what I was noticing when utilizing the XLR function on this SC3 is that I was getting clipping really bad. And this was honestly game breaking for me. In terms of the actual audio quality that you're getting, it sounded horrific. So I reached out to FIFINE to ask them if there was something that I was doing incorrectly and what the actual input gain is allowed on the SC3, because perhaps I was doing too much. So shout out to Ted from FIFINE. He was incredibly helpful with this, and he gave me the information that I needed. He told me that the AM8 microphone requires 40 dB of gain to properly power and send a good signal. And also he said that the max output on the SC3 is around 50 dB. So with that said, the AM8's only requiring 40 dB of gain and the SC3 allowing 50, my thought was that we should get a clean signal without any form of clipping or peaking. He also suggested to make sure that the AM8 was at 60% volume on the system and that also I was 3 to 5 inches away when recording. I did all of those things. I set it to 60%, I stayed that specific distance away, and I talked into the microphone. And unfortunately, it didn't matter what I did. I always got over modulation on the microphone. But just to try things out, I also brought my volume percentage from 60% down even lower to see maybe the problem was that it was just still getting too much volume. But the problem is that no matter where I have that fader in terms of percentage of input gain, it always does it. The only difference is that the actual volume of it will be quieter, but it will still be clipping and over modulated like crazy. The reason why I mention this is that if you guys are planning to use an XLR microphone in this SC3 interface, you will run into this problem. I went back and I looked at a lot of other people's reviews and I heard the same clipping on everybody's review. So what that leads me to believe is that the internals on this SC3 are not high enough in quality to provide a cleaner signal from an XLR microphone plugged into this SC3. And for me and my use case, that is a major deal breaker. I need clean and crystal audio whenever I'm working on my content, and this simply does not allow for that to happen. Now, on the flip side though, a good thing about this system, we've already discussed a lot of the functions and they are both good and bad, but it's plug and play. You don't need to download any software in order for these systems to work. You plug them into your computer, they're immediately recognized and you can use them accordingly, which is very, very helpful for somebody who is new at this. So then that begs the question, is this SC3 worth purchasing? Well, I would look at it from this perspective, and I'll give a clearer answer at the end of this video, but my thought is this. If you are a content creator or somebody who is in need of good audio, but also having it in a single system, this SC3, even at that $50 price tag, I do not believe is worth for you. I do think that this SC3 is worth it for somebody specific, and I'll talk about that at the end of this video. But if you are a content creator and you're looking for a good audio system, this is not for you. All right, now let's move on to the AM8 microphone, because this is where things change a little bit. Visually, it is beautiful. And on top of that, it also has an RGB ring that is really awesome. It looks really, really good. And there's a dedicated button on the microphone to change through a bunch of different colors to get to what you prefer. I like using it on the full RGB function. I think it looks really, really great, and it matches my PC that I have going on. Now, in order to power that RGB, you have to have it plugged in to your computer via the USB port. Even if you're not using the microphone in the USB audio source, you do have to still have it plugged in through USB in order to power the RGB. Now, if you are using this microphone in USB, you also have two knobs on the microphone to adjust your input gain as well as your mic monitoring if you choose to plug in a pair of headphones into the microphone itself. It does have mic monitoring if you are using the microphone as USB and not XLR. How would this work? You plug in your AM8 to your computer via the USB cable, and then you plug in your 3.5mm headphones into the back of the AM8, and then you can have mic monitoring that way. Something to note though, the actual audio output is not very loud when you're doing the mic monitoring. Even if you max out the knob, it doesn't get really, really loud. So that might be something you might have to play around with and see what works for you. For me, it was a little bit too quiet, but that may be different for you. You also have a mute button on the back of the microphone as well. Once again, if you're using it in USB. And I'll also put it this way too. The knobs and the buttons on this microphone only work if you are using it in USB. If you are using this microphone as an XLR microphone, none of these buttons or knobs do anything. The only thing that will work if you're using this as an XLR microphone is if you have the USB plugged into the computer to power your RGB, but you're using it as an XLR microphone, the RGB button does work. But that is the only thing that will work if you're using this in an XLR way. Now, the overall audio quality when using this in USB is not bad at all. And especially for a $50 microphone, I would actually say that this is probably really, really solid good when compared to other USB microphones in that market. For $50, you're actually cheaper than a lot of other microphones, and I think the only real competitor that you have in this space is actually with the Blue Snowball. Now, I have previously owned a Blue Snowball way back in the day. Now, they may have changed things since I had one, but at least at the time, that microphone is a condenser microphone, which means that it's going to pick up a lot of audio coming from a lot of different areas. So it's a lot harder to do sound treatment on a Blue Snowball versus this AM8. So if you are looking for an easy plug and play USB microphone that has some cool functionality, this actually is probably worth it for you at that $50 price point. But I will say that you are going to get better audio if you use this in the XLR way. Okay, right now we have the FIFINE AM8 plugged directly into the Elgato Wave XLR. We have VST plugins running right now in real time on this microphone. So we're getting audio processing on this microphone in real time. This is what the FIFINE AM8 sounds like with VST audio plugins running in real time on the microphone. Now, this is what the FIFINE AM8 sounds like with all of those plugins turned off. This is clean audio running from the FIFINE AM8 into the Wave XLR and into the Wavelink software. There is nothing being added on top of this audio. This is straight out of the microphone, no plugins whatsoever. Now, this is what the audio from the FIFINE AM8 sounds like plugged in via USB, not utilizing the XLR input. As you can see right here, I have the XLR unplugged. We are literally just getting USB audio from the FIFINE AM8 with no plugins or any sort of VST things added, because somebody who purchases this to use it in USB functionality, they're not going to have those VST plugins to use. So this is what the real audio is going to sound like from somebody who uses this microphone plugged in only with USB. Now, this is what the Shure MV7 sounds like with input gain at 55 dB and by using VST plugins running in real time on the microphone. This is what the Shure MV7 sounds like in comparison to the FIFINE AM8. And now here we have the Shure MV7 running at 55 dB again with all of those VST plugins turned off. So we don't have any of those plugins running. This is clean audio coming from the Shure MV7 into the Wave XLR, into the Wavelink software with no VST plugins running at all. But now it's time to take a look at both of these systems and kind of discuss who is this designed for? Who should purchase these? When it comes to the AM8s, I'm a little bit mixed on my feelings because I just told you a lot of really positives about the microphone. It has really good audio quality when combined with another really good audio interface. Notice how I told you guys that the AM8 sounded really bad when plugged into the SC3, but it sounds really good when plugged into the Wave XLR. That is where the SC3 falls apart for me. I do not believe that the SC3 is designed for somebody who wants to have really good audio quality. It is definitely designed for a beginner. Now, this is actually what I would really say about the SC3. If you are a content creator, do not buy the SC3. But if you are somebody who likes to play games and maybe you like to use some fun little audio functions when talking to your teammates or talking to your friends, if you play online games like maybe you play Call of Duty and you like to have fun in Search and Destroy, this SC3 is actually a good system for you because you can use things like auto-tune and voice changers to have fun playing around with the people in your match. I really believe that that is actually where this thing shines significantly, is having fun on games, but not at all if you're trying to record good audio quality. Very clear difference there. The SC3 is not for somebody who wants really good audio quality on a video or a stream, but it is for somebody who wants to have fun playing around with different fun microphone effects in a video game. Now, regarding the AM8s, once again, this microphone is around the $50 range, but in order to get really good audio quality via XLR, you have to pair it with a good audio interface. And the two main audio interfaces that come to my mind are the Wave XLR, which is $160, and also the Rodecaster Duo, which is $499. Or then you even have the Rode Streamer X, which is $399. Now here's my thought with this. I have a Wave XLR, which is $160, and a Shure MV7, which is $250, and that's how I'm able to get a really good audio quality in that system. But the AM8 is $50. So the question is, if you're gonna buy a $50 microphone and you have to have a good audio interface in order to get good audio quality from it, are you really gonna spend $50 on your microphone and then $160, $400, $500 on your audio interface? I don't think so. I think you're going to pair it with something like the Shure MV7 or a Rode Pod mic or a Rode Procaster or Shure SM7B. So that's why it's difficult for me to sit here and recommend that somebody purchase the FIFINE AM8 if they want to use it in an XLR way. For me and my system, I already have the Wave XLR, so it's easy to just plug it in, try it out, and use it. But for somebody who's purchasing for the first time, it's hard to recommend to say, yeah, buy a $50 microphone and then buy a $160, buy a $400, buy a $500 audio interface to pair with it. It just doesn't make logical sense. But where the FIFINE AM8 does shine, in my opinion, is for somebody who is a beginner and just needs a good sounding microphone to plug in via USB, and it works right out the box. That is what this microphone works for, in my opinion. Somebody who is a beginner, doesn't want to spend $70, $80 to get something like an Audio-Technica AT2020, but also gets better audio than a comparable Blue Snowball. And also it looks really beautiful in your setup as well. So at the end of the day, looking at both of these items, I do not believe that you should purchase a FIFINE AM8 and a FIFINE SC3 in tandem. They do not go together very well. However, for somebody who wants to have some fun utilizing some cool voice changers and things like that online, maybe going out if you already have a good microphone setup and purchasing this FIFINE SC3 to add some cool audio functions, maybe that's where you would benefit. Or maybe you're somebody who has a gaming headset and you just want to start having some cool voice changing effects, maybe this is a good thing to add to your setup. But if you're a content creator and somebody who wants to have good audio quality, I can't really recommend that you go out and purchase this microphone for XLR use, because you might as well get a better microphone for more money if you're already going to need to have a good audio interface. And see, here's where things break down a little bit. If you want to get a simple USB microphone, but also have really good audio quality, you could just go out and spend $150 and get the Elgato Wave 3. Now you don't need to get an XLR interface, and you have the microphone, and you have the Wavelink software, which you can add VST plugins to make the microphone sound even better. So at this point, in my opinion, the only real use case for the FIFINE AM8 is for somebody who is a beginner and wants to have plug and play, good enough audio quality with the USB functionality. Now, I know that this was a long-winded review, and I appreciate you guys sticking with me throughout everything, but I wanted to provide my thorough thoughts about these devices. Once again, thank you, FIFINE, for sending these out to me, and for you guys watching out there, I hope you learned something about these devices. Let me know, do you own any of these items currently? Are you using them, or have you been considering getting them? And let me know what this review helped you to decide about in the comments. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.